This special edition of Thursday Night Championship Rings. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, it is your usual host, Brain of Lewis from Brain's World. Josh Ungar from the Ungar to the Max YouTube channel is not here tonight, as unfortunately he is battling an illness. So I have brought on a man that I have known for a long time. He's been on the Brain's World podcast. Those of you that have been listeners know his takes. You know, me and him agree to disagree on a lot of things, and I can't wait to get into all things Super Bowl, NBA, and WWE WrestleMania tonight. That being with my good friend, Jalen Sandvick. Jalen, welcome to Championship Rings.
Thank you guys for having me. First of all, Josh, I know you'll be watching. Get well soon, brother. I can never fill your shoes. I appreciate the spot, the offer, Brandon. And I'm sorry about the webcam, guys. Getting a new one, so if I'm ever back in this seat, you will see this pretty face.
Yeah, and so I hate to say it, but before we get into the Super Bowl game that obviously was a tremendous thriller down to the wire, we're both going to take a minute out of tonight's show and just the heinous, disgusting, and vile acts of what happened at yesterday's championship parade. And I think that we can all agree that it doesn't matter if you are a liberal, it doesn't matter if you are a conservative. Gun violence in this country is clearly messed up. It seems to be happening more at these mass gatherings, which is just sickening and disgusting. Kudos to all of those who stepped in and even tackled apparently one of the active shooters. What an act of courageous heroism. And we tonight pray for the young woman that lost her life and the kids who are reportedly in the hospital. Just a sad, sad, sad situation on what should have been a glorious day of Kansas City celebrating their back-to-back Super Bowl championships. Jalen, the floor is yours, my friend.
This is a little tough to speak about on air. Obviously, it's never easy to talk about a subject like this. I just want to say God bless all those families. I'm praying for you. Prayers are up. I appreciate Andy Reid, obviously. If you haven't read any of the articles, Andy Reid was there trying to comfort kids to the best of his ability. But whoever you are, just make sure you pray for them. And whoever did it, whoever shot at them, God's got a plan for you. And I really hope he makes you pay for this, because this is not okay. At the end of the day, we're all sports fans, regardless how you feel about the outcome of sports. It's supposed to be enjoyable. It's supposed to take away from the pain of regular everyday activities. So at the end of the day, prayers up to you guys. You guys are strong survivors. Stay strong. Everybody stay strong and stay safe. But prayers up to you guys.
So before we dive into sports tonight, obviously, as always, Championship Rings is a podcast with me and Josh Ungar, usually hosting this show every Tuesday night. And Josh is here in the comment section. So, Josh, we appreciate you. I'm going to go ahead and put your comment on screen. Josh says it should have been a celebration for the Chiefs, but unfortunately it turned into a nightmare. And could not say it so better myself. As always, again, make sure that you subscribe to us right here on YouTube at Championship Rings 216. Follow us on our other social media platforms. We're on Twitter or X at Rings Champion, Instagram at Rings Champion, and Facebook, obviously, at Rings Champion 216. As tough as it's going to be tonight to do this show based on sports purely alone, we have to pivot, Jalen. Let's talk about the game. A game that I had predicted was going to be a low-scoring game, and it mostly was a low-scoring game until obviously midway for the third quarter when the game really picked up. I thought overall it was a game that I sort of expected, a field position battle, until obviously we got to the fourth quarter and overtime. And this is what I've been saying really over the last couple days is I think San Francisco, in my opinion, cost themselves the game by deciding to receive the football in overtime. I didn't care if their defense was tired, Jalen. I did not care that Patrick Mahomes just drove down on them at the end of regulation to kick that game tying field goal. I do not want, if I'm a San Francisco 49ers fan or team or player, whoever will you, I don't want Patrick Mahomes deciding my Super Bowl. And I think it's evident by the way Kansas City reacted that they were going to defer anyway. And the San Francisco's logic was, if we score and they score, then there's going to be a third round and we would get our chance. But from all indications on the Kansas City side, if San Francisco scored a touchdown, Kansas City was going to get a touchdown and go for two anyway for the win. So I didn't understand the strategy. I don't get people defending Shanahan on it. The firing of Steve Wilkes now is incredibly weird as well. But I mean, I thought overall the game was kind of what I expected it to be. The commercials were lacking this year, in my opinion. I didn't really find any of them funny. Hot take, I thought Usher was kind of trash at the halftime show myself. I don't know. It was one of those Super Bowls where for me, I don't love either of these teams. So it was sort of the lesser of two evils. But how did you view the fact that now Patrick Mahomes has his third Super Bowl MVP in the last 4 years?
No, I agree. I don't agree with Shanahan's choice there. You know it. I'm a big Shanahan guy. I've spoken on Shanahan very highly over these last couple of years, but I don't understand the call because obviously defer, right? Like you defer, you go down there, you score, and then you go and you play some defense. I agree. I don't care that the defense was tired. I don't care. This is the Super Bowl. You better get some adrenaline back. Let's go win this thing. There's no tomorrow. If you lose this game, there's no tomorrow. There's no next week. This is it. So, tired or not tired, go out there, play some defense, try to win the game. And that just didn't happen. And you're right, it was pretty much the lesser of two evils. And at that point, San Francisco, as a Lions fan, F you, San Francisco. So I was happy to see that. And I'm a Pat fan and a Trav fan. I'm a big New Heights guy. Um, so I always tune into that. But yeah, it was the lesser two evils. Commercials were out of whack this year. Um, Usher wasn't bad. I will say that. That's the one thing I disagree with you on is Usher was not trash. But yeah, it was a little weird. It didn't feel like Super Bowl Sunday. I'll tell you that much.
It did until the game started. And by the way, for everybody criticizing Jim Nance and Tony Romo, I will maybe win the one person in the world that thought both of them did an excellent job throughout the game. I thought Tony was doing a great job explaining the fact that at the end of the first overtime, Kansas City did not have to rush to get that play in the end zone because they were just going to flip the quarter, which, I was sort of confused about until Bill Vinovich, who I thought explained it very well in the overtime period. Obviously before it started, which makes the whole decision, in my opinion, more baffling on San Francisco's part. It's like they didn't listen to Bill Vinovich when he explained the rules. I also thought the first half was very penalty. I mean, they didn't call one in the second half, but there was a holding call on San Francisco. There was a few false starts early. And for all of you that think that Kansas City gets all the calls, and I believe me, I was on the other side of this last year, but I thought San Francisco got a huge break on that third down holding call in overtime, and they still couldn't capitalize. Obviously, the Christian McCaffrey fumble, the fumble on the punt, which I thought really flipped the game, and then the blocked field goal. But what a lot of people are not talking about, I feel like, Jalen, is, Brock Purdy played well, but in my opinion, he didn't play great. And I know he got the extra point blocked, and I know Jennings for the touchdown, obviously. But I thought with those two huge field goals, and you can call me crazy if you want, but I thought if San Francisco won the game, you could make a real argument for the rookie kicker to be the damn Super Bowl MVP.
I never thought I'd live to hear the day where Brandon Lewis just said Brock Purdy played well.
I mean,
Sim-
I thought he played okay. I didn't think he played great, but I thought the MVP of the game for them was Jake Moody. I mean, he hit two 50-yard field goals, and arguably, if it wasn't for the blocked extra point, which, you could say it was his fault for the way he projected. You could say it was, the offensive line's fault for not getting a push. But if he makes that extra point, we could be having a completely different conversation.
I'm glad we're not having that conversation. Screw San Fran and the 49ers, and that's a little bit of the pain shooting out from the Lions' loss. But you know, like you know me, I'm a big college ball guy, right?
Yes,
So
you are. You're a big college football fan.
I am. And for those of you who don't know, I root for down here in Ohio. You know, big Buckeyes fan. Uh, I've watched a lot of Michigan games. That's what I like to do since they're our rivals. I dissect how they play. Jake Moody has kicked the ball like that, like low like that, ever since he's been in college. So
Interesting point.
this is nothing new, right? So guys were definitely studying this in the Chiefs were definitely studying this because there's no way you can let a ball go through you. It basically goes straight through the line. That's not happening. There's no way. They are reading that and taking advantage of it. And that's all it was. And they did a great job. And that's why, how about them Chiefs? That's why.
Yeah, our man Josh Ungar is here in the comments saying he hates the Chiefs with a burning passion. I get it, especially as a fan of an AFC team. Obviously, as the NFC team, I got to go for San Francisco. You as a fan of NFC team, but you are also obviously hometown fan of the Browns. I get that people don't like to say the same team over and over again. And I get the fact of there's fatigue. For me, and I don't really know where you stand on this, Jalen. There's some things about Kansas City, and I don't really like them, but I sort of respect them because one, just how great Patrick Mahomes is. I mean, he's just right there. There's already people comparing him with Tom Brady to be the greatest quarterback of all time. There's the Andy Reid connection, which there's some thought in the Philadelphia community that the Eagles fired Andy Reid when they shouldn't have, and I completely disagree with that because Andy Reid did not win Super Bowls until he got arguably the second best quarterback of all time. And then there's obviously the Travis Kelce connection and the Jason Kelce connection and that connection. And then there's the Taylor Swift connection, which, as I've been saying for the past month, it's a love story. And baby, you should all just say yes. And if you're mad at the fact that Taylor Swift is on your TV screen for 30 seconds of a whole NFL Super Bowl, then it just comes down to people that are lonely on Valentine's Day.
That was a nice Taylor Swift slide in right there. It is a love story, and baby, we should just say yes because Travis Swift is in full effect in Arrowhead. And guess what? Travis Kelce, to quote the sumo plate, to quote the parade, he said he blames it on his roots. He showed up wearing boots and ruined the bride and ruined the Niners affair.
Man, I mean,
You
from
were
a
a little
San
sauce.
Francisco perspective, and here's why, as a fan of the Eagles, we don't like the Niners. And I said this: the Niners were crying all Super Bowl week about the grass they practice on was soft, and they got woken up at their team hotel, and they got screwed 2 years ago because Brock Purdy got hurt, and Patrick Mahomes beat him again. Boo hoo, boo hoo. You didn't get the job done. Your coach choked again. Kyle Shanahan is the modern day Andy Reid. And the fact of the matter is that Andy Reid, once he got Patrick Mahomes, stopped choking. And maybe this should tell you, San Francisco, Brock Purdy and Jimmy Garoppolo do not win you Super Bowls. This isn't 1998. Maybe someone should tell Bill Belichick this. It isn't 1998 where you can run the football, play defense, and win Super Bowls. San Fran, you did that for 3 quarters. Then what happened? Patrick Mahomes accumulated 399 yards of total offense. Travis Kelce had 8 catches for 92 yards in the second half alone. Montez Valdez, Scantling, and McCole Hardman caught touchdowns against your defense, and your great pass rush with Javon Hargrave, former Eagle, by the way, Nick Bosa, Chase Young, Javon Kinlaw, they had a great first half. Where were they in the second half? Nowhere to be found. You didn't get screwed by the refs, as I alluded to it earlier. You actually got out by the refs on a very critical call. There was no controversial call on the Kansas City sideline. You just flat out choked this Super Bowl.
Yeah, all you San Fran fans, listen here and listen good. Listen to the words I'm about to speak. You guys are overrated. You guys suck. You can't get it done. You're not the guy, to quote my best friend Brandon Lewis. You are not. Brock Purdy is not the guy in the game in the moment. He's not it. Neither was Jimmy Garoppolo, neither is Kyle Shanahan, and neither are any of your bums. You guys are going back to San Francisco to cry for another 6 months while the Chiefs are doing it again. I love to see it. As a Lions fan, it brings joy to my heart, Brandon. It
For the
really
record,
does.
Jalen, San Francisco 49ers wide receivers had as many touchdown passes in the Super Bowl as Brock Purdy.
Brock Purdy.
Brock
Brock
Purdy.
Purdy. Oh my God, he should win MVP. Oh yeah, the MVP of what? The most average quarterback? That's what I'm getting. That ain't no
I think that's
MVP.
what he is. I think he's the 16th best quarterback in football.
Give me Joe Flacco any day. Give me C.J. Stroud any day. Give me Jared Goff any day.
Absolutely, Jared Goff. I think you can make the argument, and this is a little bit off topic, but I'll just say this real quick because you're a Lions fan, so I'll say it. You can make the argument Jared Goff is the best quarterback in the NFC.
He's right behind Jalen. That's
Yeah, I mean, I think it's him, Jalen, and Jordan Love. I mean, I could make a case next year if Jordan Love pops again, Jordan Love takes the mantle.
I can see that for sure. But it's definitely not, to quote my friend Brandon Lewis, Brock Purdy.
All right, Jalen. So we've attacked this Super Bowl from every angle, but now we have to talk about next year. There has never been a team in the history of the National Football League as great as the New England dynasty was, as great as the Niners dynasty was in the 80s, as great as the Dallas dynasty was in the 90s, as great as Pittsburgh's dynasty was in the 70s. There has never been a team in the National Football League to repeat 3 straight times as NFL Super Bowl champions. But I got to tell you, as much as I hate to say it, I think out of all those dynasties I just mentioned, I think the Kansas City Chiefs have a good shot. I put it at a 6 or a 7 out of 10 to actually do it. And it's not because of their offense, it's because of that defense. Now, whether they bring back Chris Jones, whether they bring back Ladarius Sneed, I do think they find a way to get Chris Jones back. I do think they'll find a way to get Ladarius Sneed back. I think there's going to be sort of a one last run. Let's do this historically. As long as you have Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes on your side, I don't care if you're Baltimore. I don't care if you're Buffalo. I don't care if you're Miami. I've seen it. I've seen what this Kansas City Chiefs team can do now, whether it's road, home, neutral site. Maybe they do a slight upgrade at receiver. Maybe they upgrade their offensive tackles. But I think this team is obviously going to be right there again next year. I think Travis Kelce was waiting to the postseason to turn it on. I think he'll do it again next year. I think, Jalen, there is only one person in the AFC who can stop Patrick Mahomes. There's only been one person in the AFC who has defeated Patrick Mahomes in a playoff game that's currently an active player. And that person was hurt this past year. And that's why I think Baltimore had the success they had late in the year. And that was Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals. T. Higgins is going to be back on the franchise tag. Jamar Chase is still there. Who knows? But running back is sort of in a relevant position. You can build around it. I think they'll go with more defense in the draft. I think they'll draft another lineman. Maybe they draft a Tyler Boyd replacement at the number 3 wide receiver. But as long as you have Joe Burrow, who is the stone cold side of Tom Brady that I don't even think Patrick Mahomes has, I think he is the league's best shot to stop Kansas City from repeating. And I don't think there's another close team in the AFC at least.
I agree with you. You know, people have said this all year. People forget that, yeah, the Bengals were bad, but Joe Burrow was hurt pretty much all year. Like, so, and you're right, Stone Cold, Joe Cool, Joe Shiesty, whatever you want to call him, this man is a natural born killer. He is a natural born killer, and the league should be scared.
Yeah, I think that people forget just how good he was. And by the way, they blew out San Francisco um, earlier before Burrow got hurt. And I think that's what propelled Baltimore to win the division because even though Cincinnati was struggling, before Burrow got hurt, they were starting to seize. They won, I think, 5 out of their last 6 games or something like that. Again, I know every year is different. I know their defense wasn't as good as it was 2 years ago. But you could have made an argument that game in Kansas City 2 years ago, Cincinnati should have won that game. Kansas City got some breaks in officiating in that game, way more than they did in this past Super Bowl. And obviously, he beat them in Arrowhead before the previous year. So I think Cincinnati is the number one contender in the AFC. On the NFC side, listen, I don't trust the Dallas Cowboys at all. I think you can throw them out. San Francisco, I think, will be good again, but I think they are going to hit an eventual Super Bowl loser wall at some point. Green Bay is going to be good, but I don't know how quickly those receivers can develop to get them on the same level as Detroit. The way I see it, Jalen, I think your Detroit Lions with Jared Goff, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, Aiden Hutchinson, both coordinators coming back, which is huge, by the way, in Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson. And the fact that Jared Goff could only potentially play 2 cold weather games all year. That being at Green Bay and at Chicago. And if you get him early, there's a chance Jared Goff doesn't have to play in cold weather from November on. I think that bodes well for the Lions. I think it's them. And you may call me a homer here, but I do like the moves at coordinator that my Philadelphia Eagles have made. I think we're going to upgrade a corner. I just think last year was, again, sort of that Super Bowl loser syndrome, fatigue. I think there's going to be motivation. I think Jalen Hurts is going to have a better year. I think Jason Kelce comes back for one more year. And if you give me the offensive line and defensive line of Philadelphia and a healthy Jalen Hurts with Kellen Moore running the show, I think this Eagles team could potentially make another deep playoff run. As I said the other day, I'm not going to predict Super Bowl for my team because every time I do, they don't make it. Every time I don't, they do. But I think Philly, Detroit, and Cincinnati are the 3 teams that Kansas City should most be afraid of to take the Lombardi Trophy away from them.
Yeah. Well, at that point, it's like, you're right. If Jared Goff gets those cold games and it gets them early, the NFL's in trouble. All right, I know what this man is capable of when he's not playing in the cold. When he's playing in warm weather, it's like he's in his prime. He's in his bag. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. And I do like the moves your Philadelphia Eagles made. And I'm calling my shot right now, though. I'll call it right now. Your next Super Bowl champions will be the Detroit Lions over the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl.
I like it. I like it. So this is something that we have talked about a little bit here on this show, and I know I've certainly addressed on Brandon's World. The NFL, and you agree with me, I know on this, Jalen, is so quarterback centric that we can right now, again, we know there's teams that are going to be drafting in the draft. And CJ Stroud was a huge pop and a huge surprise last year for Houston, but it still took a Jacksonville collapse for them to win that division. You could right now sit there and pretty much say these are going to be our playoff teams or close to being playoff contenders in each conference. AFC, Buffalo and Miami are going to be right there. AFC West, you obviously know Chiefs, Chargers. AFC North, Baltimore, Cincinnati. AFC South, Houston, Jacksonville, Indianapolis are all very good teams. The wild cards are essentially what's Pittsburgh going to do at the quarterback position, but will that be enough if Burrow and Lamar are healthy? what will Deshaun Watson do? But the Browns have a very tough schedule. They have the toughest schedule in the NFL next year on paper, especially at home. And, I know we've debated back and forth a lot about Kevin Stefanski. He's now won Coach of the Year 2 times. What will he do now in his 5th year with the Browns? But, you have Denver. We'll see what they do at the quarterback position. Jets, in my opinion, have to upgrade a lot in their offense to be serious Super Bowl contenders. I think in the NFC side, we know it's Philly, it's Dallas, it's San Francisco, it's Detroit, it's Green Bay, and probably Tampa Bay. And then a wild card team in the NFC, whether it be, Minnesota, Seattle, Rams, who have you, are not on the level of the previous teams I mentioned. So we can right now, even before free agency, even before the draft, pretty much guess who is going to be a playoff contender or near that playoff contending status just based off the quarterback and coach you have, because it's a quarterback coach league.
I agree. And that's what I was going to bring up is what is the situation with Pittsburgh? Are they going to land Justin Fields? If they do, that's a game changer right there.
See, I don't think so. I don't love that fit. I think it reminds me of what of Chicago. Defensive coach, okay, weapons not great. Run the ball. Arthur Smith as your OC, whoop-de-doo. Like, I want to see Justin Fields with a Matt LaFleur like Bobby Slowick type, a bright, young, offensive-minded coach that could take his game to the next level. Like, I think Justin Fields, I'm going to be honest with you, I think he's Kenny Pickett with a better arm and a little better mobility. That's what I think he is.
Wow. Well, at least he's not Geno Smith.
Well, well, you know what? Seattle's going to be a very interesting team because I've been thinking about them. Michael Penix, Bo Nix, what have you. Of course, Josh, that goes back to our initial discussion with Jared Goff and Geno Smith, which we talked about way back when on championship rings.
I love you, Josh. I'm just pressing your buttons here, buddy. I love you.